in case people are absent or something like that, what I do is I record the class. So it doesn't have you guys, it's just the board and me. So like when we do math lessons that I write on the board and stuff, it'll get recorded. But when you guys do a little chit chatting, a little talking on the side, that gets recorded too. So what happens is if people miss class, what happens is like you'll have the lesson in your book, but you can follow it because I'll post it on YouTube so you can watch it there. So, but that doesn't mean you guys should skip class, okay? So just to introduce myself, my name is Eli Quo. I've been teaching students like yourselves for about 20 years, and I teach everything from SBAC to SSAT, ISEE, HSPT. These are all tests that 7th and 8th graders take to get into either public schools like Lowell, or else private schools like University or SI. So I may see you again in the near future. So, but before we begin, let's just do some introduction. I think some of you guys know each other, which is a good thing. Let's go over here. We're going to start with Connor. Introduce yourself. Give us your name, what school you go to, and also, this is what I want everyone to share is something that you do, but not without using a cell phone, not using the internet, not using anything electronic, something you like to do. So it cannot be Fortnite. Oh my gosh, Fortnite. No Fortnite. But he had a tear that fell there. Tell us about yourself. So start with Connor over there.
I'm Connor. I go to Updates Middle School and I like soccer. My name is Alonzo. I go to Updates Middle School and I like basketball.
Okay.
My name is Elizabeth. I go to Studio and I like to run. My name is Maria. I go to Studio
Okay.
My name is Rito, and I go to Lowenthal, but I like to play basketball.
All
My
right.
name is Ethan. I go to play Lowenthal and I like to go.
Okay.
My name is Sasha. I go to Studio and I like to basketball.
Okay. We got things that we do besides play on the cell phone, Instagram, Fortnite, and those things. I hope that you guys do a lot of stuff off of the internet without the cell phone. I know some of you guys are like, no, I live on my cell phone, but I want you guys to have a more complete experience in the world, which is offline. Okay, these books that are in front of you, these are yours, okay? So you will write on them. Does everyone have their pencil with them or pen? Okay, good. Bring one every time. I want to walk through the frequently asked questions real quick. Let's go back to the front of us. Some of you guys have moved ahead to, and some of this stuff I'm going to walk through really quickly because I think it doesn't take that much explanation. But who here knows what SBAC stands for without looking at that page? Did anybody know what it is? Not really. You guys we just take this test every year because it's called Smarter Balance Assessment Consortium. And it has become the Lowell test for the past 2 years. It was only just because it used to be all students would take a test in January. Now it's in the springtime. And what happened was like a couple of years ago, 7th graders took the test not knowing that it was going to be used as the primary source of whether or not you would go to Lowell. So some of them were like, yeah, I don't care about this test. And they just filled it out on the computer, didn't care. And they got terrible scores. And then later on, the school district said, oh, this will be used to determine whether you go to Lowell. And parents just went, what? You guys didn't tell us this is going to be the Lowell test, right? And so now parents really want you guys to be prepared because what used to be a test that all students take every spring is now a major measurement of whether or not you get into Lowell. So that's what this is, okay? There are two parts of it. One, they're both on the computer. One's called the computer adaptive test, which is multiple choice. And the other part is the performance task where you're writing an essay. So I'm just going to speed along here. What are the performance tasks? They are the part of the test that requires students to answer a set of questions that are centered on common themes or problems. Are there time limits on this test? What do you guys think?
Yeah.
There is no time limit. Believe it or not, but, okay. Although there's no time limit, the estimated amount of time that you should take is about, I'm on the middle of this page right here, the estimated amount of time for the SBAC is about 6.5 hours. but it's done over the course of 2 days. So you're not sitting there in front of a computer going, oh my gosh, right? You don't want to be in that situation. Okay. The English and language arts and the computer adaptive part is about 1 hour and 30. The performance task is about 2 hours. So that's 3.5 hours on one day, right? And the other part is mathematics. I'm on page 3, if you guys are with me here. The mathematics adaptive is 2 hours, performance task, 1 hour. So that in total is 3 hours. So how the schools generally schedule it where you're doing the performance task and the computer adaptive on 2 different days. That's usually how they do that. Okay? Any questions? Let's move forward to the next page real quick. We're going to talk about these. Some of these I'm going to speed through because you just need to know it, but it's not like we need to dwell on it. In terms of the scores, they are going to be available within 3 weeks. I'm not going to go too deep on that. Can I skip questions on the computer adaptive or the performance task? The answer is no. And this is straight from the folks who make the SBAC. Items must be answered before moving on to the next question. Students may flag questions for review, then return to them with the same segment according to pause rules. So that means if you skip it, you're probably not gonna get credit for it because you can't go back and forth unless you answer it and flag it, and then you can go back, okay? Next part is the pause rule. Some students get stuck on something, or some of them just get plain bored and they start staring and they just go, this is boring. And they just stare. Does everybody do it that way? Yeah? There's a 20-minute limit. I hope you don't stare for 20 minutes, Connor. That's a long time, right? So I hope you don't do it. I was just portraying what a student might do. But what I'm going to tell you is the pause rule, which they tell us right here, is if a student has paused a test segment and returns after 20 minutes, he or she will not be able to review or change previously answered questions. So it just kind of like saves it, but archives it. So those questions are done. You cannot go back to them, okay? Also note that once a student has completed a segment and moves on, he or she cannot return to the previous segment, okay? So that's just something to know. We talked about performance tasks, and then there's an audible section. What I'm gonna do for you guys when you take the practice test, that's gonna be homework after week 3. The practice test, you'll take it, and then I'm gonna give you links on YouTube so you can listen to the audible portions of this, okay? In the real test, you'll be hooked up with headphones where you're gonna look, it'll be right in front of you on a screen, okay? Any questions so far? Good? Oh, yes.
Why are there so many rules? Like,
I didn't make the rules. I'm just delivering them to you. The people from the SBAC made these rules, and I'm just trying to make you aware of them so that you don't take the test cold and then you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know this stuff. How was I supposed to know? Most students who are not taking the class that you're in right now will not know the rules, and they're just going to go, okay, I'm just taking a test, right? And they don't know what's going on. So that's why I'm telling you these rules, so that you'll be aware. Okay. On the next page, it talks about the number of questions. In total, the English and language arts section has 118 questions. 9 of them are hand-scored short answers. So that means it's kind of like you're writing an essay, and somebody's actually going to read it, and they're going to hand score. It doesn't mean they physically write like this. It just means that they are giving a grade after reading your essay, okay? The performance task has 1 question that is hand graded. In math, there's 78 questions, or 76, sorry, I read that too quickly. 76 questions, 3 of them are hand-scored questions. So there's gonna be some explanation for the math that you do, okay? Now, the last thing here on this page, this table that we have, shows us percentiles. Have you guys ever heard of percentiles before?
Yeah.
Okay, give me your name once again.
Haruto.
Haruto, what is a percentile?
1% of something.
Kind of. Anybody else want to share what it could be? A percentile is like, if you're the 95th percentile, if your score is the 95th percentile, you have scored higher than 95% of the students who took the test. If you're in the 5th percentile, you're only higher than 5% of the students, okay? So obviously you want to be in the 95th percentile because it's a really high score, right? Whereas in the 5th percentile, you're not going to go, hey, Mom, I'm in the 5th percentile. No, you're not going to do that because your parents will probably go, what? You're only better than 5% of the students. Okay, obviously you don't want to be jumping for joy for that one, right? This chart here, if you look at it, shows you scores for ELA and for math in the 95th percentile. They're around 2701. And then if you go down to the bottom 5th percentile, you can see ELA is 2380 and math is 2339. This comes straight from the SBAC website. The reason why I'm showing you this is because both the high scores in the 95th percentile and the low scores in the 5th percentile, they're all in the 2000s. So really, from the lowest range all the way to the highest range, if you subtract 2701 and 2380, it's about 321 points from the low to the high. You guys see that? Does everyone agree with me? From low to high, it's only about 321 points. In math, 2702 down to 2339. That's even less than 320 points, right? That's about 363, right? So what I'm trying to say here, or maybe that was more, okay. But the point of it is that really, or is 343. It's not that many points between high to low, okay? So although I was kind of animating it and going, yeah, 95th percentile, boo, 5th percentile, right? They're actually not that far apart from each other, okay? So we do have to do our best to be as accurate as possible to get the higher percentile, okay? Now that we understand what percentile is, I'm going to show you why it's relevant to you. Let's turn this page real quick. Have any of you guys talked to your parents about what it takes to get into Lowell? Okay, what did your parents tell you? Okay, so they kind of threw down the hammer for you, right? And they said, Elizabeth, right? Yeah, they threw down the hammer and said, you got to get all A's, right? Did anybody else's parents give you kind of a rundown on what it takes to get into Lowell? I'm going to tell you that what Elizabeth said is not far from the truth, okay? And I'm going to tell you that because of this page. This is produced by the San Francisco Unified School District. And I'm going to show you that they have 3 bands, band 1, band 2, band 3. Band 1 is students, 70% of the admits to Lowell, okay? 70% of them, which is approximately 725 students, they scored really high on the test and their grades were really high. If you look at these boxes, band 1 is based on the ELA and math and grades as well as the test, the SBAC. In the bold letters, it says the total possible score for band 1 is 89, and it says the cutoff score is 88. So it tells you that you have 1 point that you can lose, just 1 point. And you must be wondering, what is 1 point? Okay, what I want you to look at is the page on the right, page 7. Look on the right. If you look at how they add up to 89, I want you to look at this second column. It says max points. Max points there says first semester 7th grade is worth 16 points. Second semester 7th grade, 16 points. First semester 8th grade is 32 points. If you add that up right there, that's 64 points right there, okay? This test that you guys will take in the next month is the SBAC. The ELA part of it is worth 12.5 points. The math part is worth 12.5 points. So that in total is 25 points, right? So 64 plus 25 is how much? 89, okay? So if the average student of band 1 was 88, I'm going to tell you that they probably had close to perfect grades for 7th and 8th grade. That's how they got the first 64 points. And then their SBAC was pretty close to perfect on both the ELA part and the math. when we talked about percentile a moment ago, I want you to look at this page 7 and look at the top where it says 97th to the 99th percentile. The reason why I want you to see that, same page 7, look in the middle of the page. It says point equivalent 12.5. Do you guys see 12.5? And then it says Terra Nova percentile. They're trying to balance it with another test. 97 to 99. That's what you have to score, the 97th to the 99th. What is that on the SBAC? That means that you got to score between 2693 to 2778 on math, or you got to go from 2693 to 2745. So minimum 2693. That's your cutoff. Do you guys see what I'm talking about? Am I leading you down a path that seems confusing? Because we know for band 1, you've got to get an 88. If you don't get an 88, you'll fall into band 2. Let's talk about band 2. Band 2 is worth about 15% of the admits. That's about 155 students. So they look at your grades, they look at your SBAC, and they look at your activities. So I'm very glad to hear that a lot of you guys play sports. That's great. You guys do activities. That's good. That's important to your admissions. If you're not band 1, that's what they consider for band 2. I just want to tell you that they tell us right here for band 2, total possible points including activities is 109, and it says the cutoff score for band 2 is 85. So that's actually a better range, but it's not a lot. But you can see that, it goes from 109 to 85. So what I'm telling you here is these are the primary ones for you guys right here. From the schools you guys have mentioned, they're all primary middle schools of San Francisco. Band 3, none of you guys come from these select schools that they have at the bottom of this page. So none of you are really band 3. Band 3 is for students who come from this list of schools right here. Oh, you're Aptos. Oh, you're band 3. Okay, actually, I'm sorry, I didn't connect that. You guys are Aptos, actually. Well, you guys can qualify under band 3 because it's an underrepresented school. Sorry, I'm sorry, I didn't even connect that. But you guys are Aptos. So these two fellows are but if you're not in one of these schools here, you would not be able to do band 3. For band 3, they also have recommendations from principals who nominate certain students. So there are other factors for band 3, okay? So you actually have 3 chances of getting. Other students are just within band 1 and band 2. That's
So it's a good thing?
Yeah, because you have more opportunities. Because if your school is not on this, is Lilienthal on this list? I don't know. No, it's not. Okay. But I was going to say there's only certain schools that are on there. Not all of the public middle schools are on there. A lot of them are private middle schools. So, but what I'm trying to tell you is this is how important this class is for you guys. And this is how important it is for you guys to do your best on this test, because you can see how competitive it is to get into Lowell, right? So not to scare you guys, I'm going to try to keep it light, okay? But I want you guys to try to soak in as much as you can. You guys all brought your pencils. I want you guys to write all over these notebooks. It's made for you guys to take notes, okay? Any questions? We're good? Anybody scared? Don't be scared. Okay. So let's continue to the next page. Let's look at page 8. Okay. So real quick here, we talked about SBAC. It has 76 questions. So let's write that in there on page 8, right? 76 questions. There are 2 sections. One is performance task. One is the computer adaptive test. And we're going to talk mostly about the computer adaptive test first, because that's the largest portion of this thing, okay? By now, you guys know students will have unlimited time to complete the test. And when I say unlimited, it means within the frame of the day that you're taking. It's not like, Mom, I'm still at school and it's 3 a.m. I'm doing my computer adaptive test. It's not going to be that unlimited, okay? It's within the framework of the school day. So it won't be like, Mom, don't pick me up. I'm still at school. I'm still working on the computer adapt. It's not going to be that way, okay? But real quick, I want to talk about the types of topics that you will see on this test here. So real quick, I'm going to read these off. I want you guys to write these in here. These are topics that you guys have seen before. So I want you to write in ratios and proportions for the first line. And for that, there's 13 questions. You guys have all seen ratios and proportions, right? Good. The next one is the number system. And there are 14 questions for that. And when I say number system, they're looking at things such as PEMDAS, things that you have to do in order to solve them, okay? The next one is expressions and equations. Expressions and equations. And there's 15 questions on that one. Does anybody need me to repeat any of them? First one is ratios and proportions, 13 questions. The second one is the number system, which is 14 questions. Third one is expressions and equations, 15 questions. The next one is geometry. Geometry, 13 questions. And then the next one after that is statistics and probability. And there's 15 questions.
How many questions for geometry?
Geometry is 13. And then statistics and probability, 15 questions. And outside of those, for performance tasks, which is not a part of the computer adaptive multiple choice, there's 6 questions in that, okay? So the reason why I wanted to tell you these topics is because that way you'll know what math topics you've seen already are relevant to this test. And secondly, so you'll know how many. One thing I will say is they don't follow this order. It's not like they give you, here's 13 questions for rates and ratios. Here's 14. It's not going to be in order. They're just going to kind of mix and match. They're going to pop up, okay? But you will need to be ready for them. Let's talk about some rules of math here. And the first one I want to talk about is rules of divisibility. How many of you guys have memorized the rules of divisibility? Elizabeth, a little bit? Okay. What's the rule for 2? I'm going to just draw this chart up here.
I think that last number has to be an even number.
Okay, last number. So if we're to test that rule on the number 324, is it divisible by 2? Yes, it is. Okay, so that's yes. Let's write that in. Everyone should be writing this on the paper. These workbooks are yours, okay? So unlike public school where you can't take the books home and write on them, although some students write and scribble on them, these are yours. If you scribble on it, it's your scribble, okay? So what's the rule for 3? Does anybody know the rule for 3? Elizabeth?
Yeah, all of the numbers have to, when you add up all the numbers, they have to be.
Right. The sum of the digits is divisible by 3. So I'm going to write this up here. So with 324, this is how we'll test it. Okay. We're going to say, what is 3 plus 2 plus 4 equal? Say that again, Connor. It's 9. Okay. Good. So if this is 9, is 9 divisible by 3? When we say divisible, we mean with no remainder, right? So this is a yes. Okay, good. All right, Elizabeth has helped us a few times. Does anybody know the rule for 4 before she tells us? You didn't? Okay. I was going to say she might have this one. Does anybody else know the rule for how you know if something is divisible by 4? Okay. You look at the last 2 numbers, and the last 2 numbers represent a number that's divisible by 4. So I'll write the rule up here. The last 2, I'll call it the last 2 digits, all right? divisible by 4. So we're looking at 24. Can we divide 24 by 4?
Yeah.
That's a yes, right? 24 divided by 4 is 6. So this is a yes. Okay, no remainders or decimals or anything like that. The next one should be really easy, and I want to hear from someone else. Okay, give me your name once again. Maria. Okay, Maria, what's the rule for 5?
The last digit has to be 5.
Correct. Last digit is either 5 or 0. Okay. So for 324, the answer is obviously no. Okay, so it is not a number divisible by 5. Okay, we're getting the hang of this. Who knows the rule for 6? Does anybody know the rule for 6? Elizabeth knows it. It's going once, going twice, 3 times. Elizabeth, what is the rule?
I think it has to be divisible by both 2 and 3.
That is correct. Divisible by both 2 and 3. Since we figured that out already, we know that it's yes. Okay. So let's go from there to the rule for 9. Who knows the rule for 9? Let's hear from Ethan. Was that your hand? No?
Is it by 3 or 6?
It's a nice guess, but that wouldn't be the rule. Close. Anyone else? Connor, you're working on pen flipping? Let me show you how it's done. Okay, we'll work on that together. Okay, but what is the rule for divisible by 9? Ethan, you have another?
Just the last number has to be odd.
Well, 7 is odd. Okay. All right, Elizabeth, do you know this one? Oh, I thought you knew this one. Okay, it's similar to the rule for 3. So you add the digits, and the sum is divisible by 9. So let's see. So we did this before for 3. 9 divided by 9.
Yeah.
So 324 is divisible by 9. So, and then 10. Let's hear from Sasha. Has to end in a 0. Great. Okay. So this is obviously a no, right? Now, some of you guys are probably wondering, why did I start with this? Why did I talk about this? Well, this is going to help us on a lot of questions that deal with multiples, factors, and prime numbers. Because if a number is prime, if it's a big number, sometimes you're like, I don't know, this is a big number. I don't know what to do with it. You'll just go down this list and you'll use these rules to figure out if it is divisible by these numbers. The only number from 1 to 10 that isn't as simple to figure out is 7. And 7, you're just going to have to manually divide there because there's not a simple rule that's as easy as these. 8 doesn't have a rule that's as easy either, but the easy thing with 8 is it doesn't go into anything that's odd. It only goes into even numbers. So that's what I'll tell you. Okay, let's turn this page. What I'm going to do is this. I think you guys are pretty sharp here. What I want to do is I want to come back to 10, but I want to talk about 11 first. And I want to talk about definitions first. Can someone tell me what is a digit? Don't pull the page out. Keep it in there. Just keep them in there because you're going to get those out of order. Just keep them there. We're just going to talk about page 11 first. We'll come back to 10. What is the definition of digit? Anyone want to? Connor says number. Oh, okay. Alongo said that. Sorry, I didn't hear. I didn't see who said. I just heard it. But okay, It is a number, but more specific than that. More specific. So here's the question: is 42 a digit? No. Is it yes or is it no?
Maybe.
Yes or no? I'm kidding. Some people do that. They're like, I'm not sure. It's yes. They started with a no. Yeah. Go ahead, Maria. She's getting warmer. Very good on that. Ethan, you wanted to add
I
to?
was gonna say it's a number, but it's with a single digit, a single
It's a place. So this is what I'm going to say. A digit is a unit's place represented by 0 to 9. So Maria was on it. She just needed that qualifier in the front. A digit is a unit's place. A unit with apostrophe S. A unit's place represented by 0 to 9. Okay? And I'm being very specific about this because in this exercise that we just did, you can see how I wrote on here sum of the digits. I didn't say sum of the numbers. And the rule for 4, it's the last 2 digits, right? Math writers, when they write these questions, they specifically use words like digits. They specifically use words like integer or natural number because they want you to limit it to a specific type of number. They don't just throw it around like, yeah, dude, numbers are numbers. They're all cool. They're all friends. No, they're actually pretty specific. So what is an integer? Yeah, Alonka?
I don't know, I'm guessing it's a number, but it's like a fraction or decimal.
That's true. He said what they are not. Let's add to that, Sasha. Depends on how you write your number line. So I actually think that's too broad. Let's go back to what Alongo said. No fractions, no decimals. So what are the other numbers, Maria? Whole numbers. Okay. So good. Let's combine this. Integers are whole numbers, positive, negative, or 0. And then I want you to write no fractions, no decimals. Okay. So when a test question talks about integers, they're really telling you use whole numbers. Don't forget about the negative. Don't forget about 0. Because most of the time we like to think in positive numbers. Yeah, I'm like a totally positive person, you know. I like to think positive. Well, we got to think of negative numbers and 0. But what Alongo said is correct. Don't use fractions. Don't use decimals. So that's why it can't be just any number line. It has to be just positive, negative, and 0. Okay, I think we've already established what's positive. Ethan, what's positive? Yeah, any number greater than 0. And negative, you want to tell us what that one is, Haruto?
Number or digit, smaller than 0.
Yeah, less than 0. Good. Those are pretty obvious then. Good. Now, other words that we may take for granted that might show up on the test would be the word consecutive. What does consecutive mean?
Back to back.
Back to back. That's true. Anything? I'm going to write some numbers up here and see how you guys would classify them. All right. So if I said, are these numbers consecutive?
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone says yeah? Okay, how about this? Are these numbers consecutive? These are even consecutive numbers, right? Let's try another one. Are these consecutive? You could call them consecutive multiples of 5 or increasing by 5, right? How about this? Are these consecutive? Yeah, decreasing numbers can be consecutive. How about this one then? One, 2, 4, 5, 7, 8. Okay, Connor, that's a strong no. Tell me why.
Because it's not keeping a consistent pace. It goes up by ones for 1 and 2, but then once it gets to 2, it doesn't go up by 1.
Very good explanation right there. It's alternating So that's not a consistent pattern. So our definition for consecutive is increasing or decreasing by a consistent pattern, not an alternating pattern like this. So increasing or decreasing by a consistent pattern. Okay. I know some people would argue like, well, it is only going +1 +2, isn't that consistent? No, that's still alternating. Okay. So it would mean by the same difference between like +5 +5 +5 +2 +2 +2, you know, or +1 +1. If it gives you no qualifiers, meaning it doesn't say even numbers, it doesn't say increasing, it doesn't say odd numbers or something like that, then the numbers are just going to be purely consecutive, going up by 1. 81, 82, 83, 84. Okay, when they say consecutive, if it has no other qualifiers, it's just going up by 1. Yes, Maria. Yes. This says, it says right here, a list of numbers is consecutive if it is increasing or decreasing by a consistent pattern. If it is increasing or decreasing by a consistent pattern. And everybody agrees with these examples that we have, right? The only one that wasn't was the one that's alternating in the amount that increases. This gets kind of interesting here, and I want to open this up. What is the definition of multiple? Multiple. Is that a hand, or are you scratching your head? Okay, that was like a yes or a no. Okay, Ethan?
Is a multiple, for example, like 2 is a multiple of 10 or 20, 30?
Does everyone agree with what Ethan just said here? Maria is giving us a strong no. Tell us why. That's a factor. He said 2 is a multiple of 10 and 20. And she's like, no, that's a factor. Let's open this up. What's the definition of factor then?
It's the number that can be multiplied by equal.
Okay, she's getting warmer. I'm going to use an example to make it clear for everyone here. If I said, what is 2? A factor or a multiple? It's a factor. Okay. What is 3? Factor. What is 6? Multiple. Okay. Okay, this example right here speaks loud and clear, right? So this is what I'm going to tell you. A factor is a number multiplied by another number to produce a multiple, okay? Okay, and when we say number in this, actually we should be more specific because when we talk about factors and multiples, we're talking about whole numbers here. I should write a whole number. A whole number. Not a whole number. So just write whole in there. I should say that. Because some people are like, well, isn't 3.5 a number? It is. So let's say whole number here. Okay. So now the definition for multiple is it is the result of 2 whole numbers multiplied by each other. Okay. So I wrote a multiple is the result of two whole numbers multiplied together. Okay. Now, when you look at this, this equation right here, you know where I want you to write this? Where it says, what is the difference between multiple and factor? Because this one pretty much tells it to you. Factor times factor equals multiple. 2 times 3 equals 6. If I was to read it with each part, I could easily say 6 is a multiple of 2 and 3. Everyone would agree with me, right? 2 and 3 are factors of 6. Everyone would agree about that, right? So that's really, really important. I know some students are like, yeah, I kind of know this, but numbers are numbers. I'm going to tell you, these test makers don't agree. They want you to know this stuff cold because they will try to throw it to you with curveballs, and they'll say, what are the least common multiples of 24 and 42? And you're like, are you talking about factors or are you talking about multiples? A lot of students, when it comes to test time, they look at those questions and like, shoot, which one are they talking about? I'm not sure which one they're talking about. And the problem is the answers will include both factors and multiples. And then what happens, you're like, oh, shoot, I don't know which one to choose. I need to decide, right? So we don't want to have that situation where our yeses look like this and our no's look like this, because then we're not sure. And the only one who answers it is ourselves. Okay, I'm going to move on. What is a prime number? Let's hear from other voices. Elizabeth, you've been very, very helpful. Haruto, what was it?
For example, 13 is a prime number. It can only be, its only factor can be like 1 and itself.
Good. That's a good definition. Sasha, did you have anything to add to that? About the same? A prime number is divisible by only two numbers, itself and 1. A prime number is divisible by only two numbers, itself and 1. So let's write that in there. I'm going to ask you guys this question. What's the itself and 1? So I'll give you an example here. Let me just give you. Okay, so those are all prime numbers because they're divisible only by itself and 1. Okay, what is the smallest possible prime number? Smallest. Elizabeth says 1. Maria says 2.
3.
Ethan or Sasha says 3. Let's take a vote.
Could it be 0?
Ethan says 0. So let's put 0 on one of them. Let's take a vote. Is the smallest possible prime number 0? Ethan, you're not even voting for your own suggestion?
I'll have to think about it.
But you're the one who suggested this.
All right.
Okay. Is it 1? How many of you guys are voting just because Elizabeth suggested that? Okay. Is it 2? Just Maria. Okay. Is it 3? Sasha, you suggested it? Okay. The answer is 2. The answer is 2. It's a trick question because a lot of us think that 0 or 1 might be the prime number. The folks who made the theory of prime numbers were not dealing with negatives, and they were only dealing with positive numbers. But if you look at 1, it's only divisible by one number itself. That's it. There's no other number. And the rule that we had is the prime number is divisible by exactly two numbers, itself and 1. So these are not prime numbers. Okay, so I did that on purpose. And then just to let you know, there are no negative prime numbers, just positive prime numbers. Okay? So I think you guys did a good job. You guys are all familiar with PEMDAS, right? And parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, right? What I want you guys to do for the next 2 or 3 minutes is I want you guys to do the problems quietly from 1 to 10, and then we're going to go over those. It's on page 10. I want you guys to do that. I wanted to just establish the rules and then let you guys go free and just answer everything from 1 through 10 there. Go ahead and do that for a couple minutes. How many guys are done? Couple? All right. How many people need a little bit more time on this? Okay. Let's give it another minute, and then we're just going to go right into this. There might be some questions that might leave you a little bit unsure, but we'll walk through it all together. So. Okay, let's go into these. I know some of you guys are like, wait, but let's talk about it. Some of them are pretty straightforward. I'm going to start over on this, on your all's left side with Connor. You want to tell us number one what you got for this one?
I got -17. Negative.
Wait, number one?
Oh, number one. Oh, 4.
Number one. Okay, it's 4. Okay, that's correct. Let's go with Alongo on number 2.
I got -17, -3, 0 to 3.5 and 8.
That's right. From negative to positive. Elizabeth?
For 3, I got 5.
Yes, the remainder is 5 on number 3. Number 4, Maria.
I got 8.
861 is correct. Haruto, number 5.
5 is 2.
Let's talk about that again. I'm going to write this up here. That's divided by 2. And then plus 7. What is the first thing we want to do here? Maria? Divide 6 by 2. So this is 12. And then you get 3 plus 7. Now what do you want to do, Maria? You actually want to go left to right here. You want to go, these are equal priority. So when they're equal priority, you want to go left to right. Okay, so when you go left to right, you're going to go 12 minus 3 first. So it's going to be 9 plus 7, and your final answer should be 16. So this is equal to 16. I'm going to stick with the red. The red's a little bit easier to see, right? Okay, so 16 is our answer then. Okay, so let's go with the next one. Ethan, what did you get for number 6?
I didn't get pandas, but I just did it right now. Is it 78?
That sounds about right. Why don't you walk us through this?
Because, so since multiplication and division don't really have an order, I just did multiplication first. So then times 8 is 72.
Yep.
And then 54 divided by 9 is 6. And then since you have to add the two, 72 plus 6 is 8.
Correct. It's 78. So you actually probably did something else the first time.
Yeah.
And then you realized,
I
oh,
went
yeah.
from left to right, and then I
Yeah. As you guys get more advanced with math, you're going to see that the math is not just going left to right. It's going to go PEMDAS. That's the order of operations. So, okay, Sasha, did you get number 7?
I got 13, 51, 119.
13, 51, and 119. Does everyone agree that these are the prime numbers?
Yeah.
Yes. No.
I don't know.
I don't know. Okay, let's
I
hear.
don't think so.
Okay, he said, I don't think so. Listen, Elizabeth is most confident. I want to hear what you have to say.
51 can be divided by 3.
Yes,
I thought
5 plus 1,
Um,
5 plus 1 equals 6. So this is out. Okay, what else? That's it?
I also got
Wait, oh,
Haruta?
this is supposed to be 59.
59, okay, yeah, 59. If you look at the rule, how many of you guys went back to the rules of divisibility like that? We started with our lesson with that, right? That helps us a lot. First of all, none of the even numbers go into either of these two. So all the even numbers are gone for all of those, right? But the odd numbers start with 3. 5 plus 9, this is 14. 3 is out, 9 is out, right? 1 plus 1 plus 9 is 11. So 3 and 9 are out. So let's look at this. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, and 10. Since I said the even numbers can only go into evens, since both of these are odd, all of these evens are gone. Just like that. That's fast, right? We tested adding the digits. 3 and 9 are gone, right? They don't end in 0 or 5. 5 is gone. So when all of these are gone, there's only one other thing we need to test.
8 and 7.
Yeah, but 8 is already out because it's even. So test 7, okay? The 7 go into 59. So this is prime. Okay, what about 119? Did you calculate it? You just guessed, you're like, yeah, it doesn't look like it. It does, okay. Why don't we calculate it? You guys are like, it doesn't look like it. You guys are basing it on just looking at the numbers. You can't just do that, okay? What is it, Ethan?
17.
17. So Naruto actually calculated 7 times 17 actually goes into 119. So that's out, okay? So our primes are 13 and 59. So there's more than just face value. That's the takeaway from this. Because I know that we're kind of like, I want to get this done, I want to get this done. But the whole set of rules that we talked about at the beginning, they're going to help you to determine if something is prime. Okay. All right, let's keep going. Yes?
On the test, will we have a calculator or is it?
They have on the screen, there's a little calculator on there. So if you need to do some division, you can just do it right there on the screen. You don't have to do it by hand. Some people like to do it, but you know what? Since we don't have that in front of us, we'll do it by hand.
Yeah.
So, okay, good. Number 8, I'm going to go back up to Connor for number 8.
I got 7.
You got 7. That is right. You want to tell us how you got the 7?
Well, I took P to S, and that's 20. And then S to Q is 11. And I don't even know really how I did it.
P to R is how much? They told us that too.
P to R is 16.
16. So labeling the drawing helps us here. So that's what I did here. I labeled it. But you got an answer, but you don't remember how you did it? Okay, Haruto, you want to tell us what you did?
So first I subtracted 20 by 11.
And you got
9.
So you got 9. That represents P to Q here.
Yeah, and I subtracted 16 by 9.
So 16 minus 9 gives you QR here. Right? And what did you get? 7. That's correct. So you don't need to combine too many of the factors. You use the 11 to find the 9. Then you use this 9 and you take it away from 16. You get QR. You guys see that? So that's how you use parts, to find out the information of the other one. Okay, that was a good job, everyone. Let's go to number 9. Alongo, you want to tell us what you did with that one?
I did 67 minus 29.
Yes. And then you got
38.
38. That's right. That's as easy as it gets. That's it. No need to second guess yourself. Hey, you got it. You're like, I got
I
that.
was looking.
No, that's right. You just subtract on that one. That's all you do. And then the next one, number 10, Elizabeth.
I got 65.45.
Close, but not exactly. Okay, Ethan?
I got 75.
Yes, $75.45. There was a number there that was off, just one of them. Okay, I kind of made you guys do those quickly because I didn't think those were that hard. These would be like kind of early level questions on the math section. But what I want to talk about is more the fundamental stuff. So let's turn to page 12. And this question is dealing with PEMDAS. And on 2 of the questions that we did a moment ago, we faced some PEMDAS issues. This is a very straightforward one. It's asking us which of the following equations equals 16. You've got to follow the rules of PEMDAS. It doesn't mean left to right. It means parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. So someone tell me what's the best one. Which one equals 16? Meaning, not all of them are going to equal 16, just one of them. Haruto, what'd you get?
B.
B is correct. 8 times 3 and minus 5 plus 3. We did the parentheses first. You get 8 here. You do the multiplication. You get 24. And that equals 16. You do the subtraction last, right? So that's our best answer for that one. Any questions on that? This is what I'm going to do because on the Tuesday class, we actually came up short on time. I'm going to speed this up a little bit, and I want to see if you guys can do 2, 3, and 4, and we're going to review them because I found that these 2 questions were ones that students generally got. So let's everyone do on page 13 right in front of you, 2, 3, and 4. We'll go over them. Okay, let's talk about these. Let's start with number 2 here. I think number 1, I left it open to everyone here. Let's go to, did I have Connor do number 1 on that? Okay. Alongo, what did you get for number 2?
C.
C? You sounded a little not so sure there. What was it?
Yeah, can you do 2 answers or just 1?
Can only be one answer.
Okay, then it's,
Okay.
I don't know, I just think it's B.
Okay, why is it not B? Okay, let's hear from Haruto. Your hand was first.
That's 3.5.
Oh, it's a whole number.
It's not a whole number. So remember earlier I was talking about we got to be very careful when we look at these things. Don't treat it as, oh yeah, numbers are numbers, right? They specifically said whole numbers. Those 2 numbers with decimals, B and D, they're out. Just like that. They're gone. So 4 is your best answer on that one. Elizabeth, what did you get for number 3? C is correct. And how'd you get that?
I found the next number for 32.
Correct.
Like 4.3.
Right. So 33 over 7 equals 4 and 5/7. So 4 is the next number below that. So that's correct. I don't remember what it was as a decimal. I do remember as a fraction, it's 5/7. Okay. Maria, number 4, what'd you get on that one? A is correct. Tell us how you did it.
So function 2 is 10 times 4 is 40, 60 minus 40 is 20, plus 12 is 32.
That's right. So I didn't even write down the stuff in the 60 and the 12 here because I wanted people to focus on parentheses first, then multiplication. That's what this is. And then you're doing your subtraction and addition. And you're just going left to right at the very end, right? And that's the only time you go left to right here. Okay, you guys are doing excellent here. And I think you guys did a good job. Let's turn the page. We talked about definitions earlier. And now we're seeing how the questions integrate a lot of these type of definitions. Now we talked about whole numbers, we talked about integers. Now we're talking about factors, multiples, primes, and consecutives. That's a lot of stuff here, right? So a lot of these test makers like to integrate all these things at once to see how well we really understand it. So Haruto, you want to read that question number 9 for us?
What is the greatest common prime factor of 28 and 42?
So as you can see, we can't just, take it for granted what these words mean. Each of them has a meaning. What does greatest mean to us?
Largest.
Ethan says largest, okay. What's common? Say that again?
Like that has the most stuff repeated.
It doesn't mean repeated. It doesn't mean most common. Sasha? Yes, shared by both of them, okay. Prime, we know the definition of prime, Maria. Right, divisible only by itself in 1. And then factor, what's factor?
Components and equations to make the product.
Right, they're the parts that make the products. Okay, that's a good way to think. Okay, the reason why I spent a couple minutes on this was a lot of people do kind of get a little bit muddled here with common. They're like, yeah, it happens a lot, right? But that's not what it means. It means it's shared by 2 numbers. In this case, what are the numbers that will share that? So 28 and 42, what is the best way to find the greatest common factors prime factors of these two numbers? Is that a hand, Maria? What would you do? I'm sorry, say that one. Yeah, how would you do that? How would you find primes? You could go through the primes. What's another way to do this? Haruto, you have another method?
Well, you can see that the factor of 20 and 42 is 7, and it's prime, and it's also the greatest. Because
You're looking at the answers to do that? Yeah, you could do that way. How would you break down either of these twos?
To turn to like factor.
Do the tree. That's what you're saying. So Alongo is saying, let's do the factor tree. Let's just do this for both of you. So you want to help me on this? Go ahead.
7 and 3 for 28.
Not 7 and 3.
7 and 4.
7 and 4. And then what?
You go down from there, so you leave 7 because you can't split it up, and then you go from 4 to 2 and 2.
And that's it. You stop because you're down to prime numbers and you can't do anything with them, right? What do we do with 42? Who wants to do 42? Haruto? Okay.
7 and 6.
7 and 6.
You leave 3 and 2.
Okay. So the greatest one is what you said earlier, which is 7. I only wanted to put this up here in case people were not sure how to break down numbers to factors. What I'm going to say is this. The factor tree is good when you're looking for prime numbers. But if the question asks, how many factors does 42 have? The factor tree leaves out a lot of numbers. So if there was a different question, because we know the answer to this is 7 now, right? But if the question said, how many factors does 42 have? How would we do that? A list. Good. So Ethan said list. Why don't you help me and tell me what you would write?
You can write 42 and 1. You do 1 and 42.
That's 1.
You can do 21. See?
Okay. Next, Sasha? Sure. Let's do them in order. You're going to see why I'm saying that. Okay.
3.
3 and 14.
Right. 3 and 14. Anything else? Does anyone else want to help out here? Does 4 go in there? 5 go in there? Okay. Sasha is correct with 6 and 7. The reason why I wanted to pause on that was by the time you get to 6 and 7, you know there's nothing in between them. One of them goes on the small numbers. This is the big numbers, right? So you know you're done. There's nothing in between these two. So there's exactly 8 factors to 42. Do you guys see that? But the tree, when we did the tree over here, it left out 14. It left out 21. Do you guys see that? So it's not as comprehensive. It only listed mostly the small numbers, 2, 3, 6, and then one of the big numbers, 7. You guys get what I'm saying by small versus big, right? Yeah, Maria? Yeah, you just go straight out the hall. Totally. You can go without even asking. All the way down and then on the left. Okay, any other questions here? All right, let's continue here. Let's try to do, I want you guys to try 10, 11, and 12, and we'll go over them together. Let's see how you guys do. Is almost done. They're working on 10, 11, and 12. Still working on it? Give it another minute and then we're going to go into this. Okay, let's talk about these. It looks like a lot of you guys are done. So let's go to number 10. And I think last person I had read this was Haruta, right? Let's go with Ethan, 10. What did you get on 10?
D, 90.
90. Okay, tell us how you got that. That's the right answer?
Well, basically, I found that 30 times 3 is 90.
Okay.
And I did the same for 18.
And you got?
18 times 5.
Right. Good. So that is the right answer there. The answer is 90. That is the least common. Not, some people read that as doesn't happen a lot. That means smallest shared multiple. Does everyone agree with me? So that's why I make that effort to define that. Okay. Let's go to 11, Sasha.
That is 0 because a prime number can't be divisible by 7, but it's only divisible by itself. Oh, 7, 1.
So it means that there is one number that 7 can go into. So this is a trick question. It was probably the hardest one on this page, but I'm going to explain this in more detail. It says how many prime numbers less than 45 are divisible by 7. Well, the definition of prime means divisible only by itself and 1. So 7 doesn't go into anything except the multiples of 7, 14, 21, 28. But when I say 14, 21, 28, 35, none of those are prime, right? The only number that 7 goes into that's prime is itself. So there's only one number, and that's it. So the answer is 1. How about number 12? Connor, did you get an answer on this one?
Kind of. I said 81. I wasn't sure.
81 is the right answer. Does anybody have a strong explanation for this? He wasn't 100% sure, but you want to tell
I guess if it's correct, then I think I do.
Okay, what is it?
So if you subtract 84 by 7, that's 78. And the exact in between 78 and 84 is 81.
That only works because this is consecutive. And one thing I'm going to tell you this is this rule of median equals mean is only true if the numbers are consecutive. Okay? We spent a little bit of time talking about that. What is consecutive? if there's no qualifier like even consecutive or odd consecutive, you're just going 78, 79, 80, etc. You're just going straight through those numbers, or from 77 to 84. Okay, let me write this out. Let me just show you real quick. Oh, it just goes down to 78. Is that right? 7 numbers or 8 numbers?
7.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so that's 7 numbers. These are consecutive. They only go up by 1. So the median is 81, and the mean is also 81. So here's your rule with numbers. Median equals mean. Now, median does not always equal the mean. Does everyone know that?
Yeah.
I'm going to show you an example where they do not equal. So let's try this. Okay, 1, 2, and 3 billion. Okay, the median is what? What is the median? 2. What is the mean?
3. Oh,
The median is 1,000,000,001. How do I know that? Because you add them up. 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 plus 3 billion is 3,000,003,000. You divide it by 3, so your average is 1,000,000,001. So this one, your mean. It could be. It could be on the test. But really what I want to show you is what Connor did was he kind of was like, I think I have the answer. And then when I said, yeah, that's the right answer, he's like, yeah, I know this. Right? But what I'm trying to show you is there's an exception. If it's not consecutive, you can't use that rule. This rule that I gave you right here, if you guys wrote this down, is only if they're consecutive. Only if they're consecutive. This is an example where they're not consecutive, right? 1, 2, and 3 billion, right? It's obviously not consecutive, right? I had to emphasize the billion so you guys could see that. Okay, good job, everyone. Let's move on from that one. Let's talk about ratios, proportions, and rates. This is the type of material you'll see on the SBAC. All of this stuff is pretty much on the SBAC. All the PEMDAS, all the systems and operations. Let's talk about this one. Let's have Alongo read number 9 for us.
If a marble collection consists of 6 red marbles and 9 blue marbles, what is the ratio of red marbles to the total number of marbles in the collection?
Okay. They gave us a lot of info. We got to translate that. Haruto?
Well, so if you want to find the whole marble collection, you do 6 plus 9, which is 15. And then if you want to find the ratio of red marbles, it's 6 to 15. And if you reduce it, you get 2 to 5. 2 to 5.
2 to 5 is right. He divided by 3, divided by 3. This is 2 to 5. I was trying to write as fast as he was saying it. He got that right. But basically, to find the whole set, you're adding the red. It's red and blue or red and purple? It's red and blue. Yeah, it's red and blue. So the whole set, all of them together is 15. And they're asking red to the whole set. So it's 6 to 15. Reduce it to 2 to 5. That's good. Good job on that one. Questions on that? Let's try to do this. I'm going to have you guys do 10 through 12, and then we'll go over them real quick. How many of you guys are still working on it? Give it a couple seconds here. Yes.
I have a question about the test. Does the test ever like in a few years ever like change, or is it always the same?
It's actually adaptive, which means that in a live computer setting, what happens is if you keep getting questions right, they gradually get harder. If you miss questions, they get easier. That's what they do. It's what a computer adaptive test does. Question?
Okay.
Okay. Yes.
So everyone starts with the same.
They start with the first, and then as you keep getting them right, they go harder and harder and harder. That's what computer adaptive is. So, okay, let's get into these questions here. It looks like you guys didn't have a problem. Before we start with number 10, and I think I had Ethan read the last one, right? No. Oh, no, it's Harita. Okay, so how many of you guys have seen these three formulas before for speed, distance, and time? No? Yes? Kind of? Sort of? What I'm going to tell you is these are really important formulas because if you haven't seen them before, I would write them down because oftentimes they'll ask you to find the speed or to find the distance or to find the time. They're all related to each other. This is just manipulating the same formula in three different ways. Distance is equal to speed times time. Well, then time is equal to distance divided by speed. Speed is equal to distance divided by time. That's useful. So for this one, if you didn't know these formulas, you probably just organically came up with an equation in your head. How many, for this one, Ethan, what'd you get for 10? D is correct. This one was basically they gave you the distance, 225, and they gave you the speed. So this was, by the time, it's 5 hours. So that was 225 divided by 45. And that would have been right. Okay. Sasha, number 11, what'd you get on that one? 36 is correct there. This one, you just plugged in the numbers, right, for apples and oranges and cherries. And you either cross multiply or else you find the common ratio and you got that. Okay. Number 12 here, Connor, what'd you get? Okay. Alonga, did you get that one? Elizabeth, did you get this one, number 12? 3/5. Tell us how you did this one.
It said the probability that a girl will enter from the class, so I did 21 for girls over 35, which is how many are in the class. And then I just found the I simplified it, and then I got 3 over 5.
That's right. The question is probability of girls to total. So she added it up. This is similar to one that we did earlier about the marbles. It's probably the most similar one. She reduced it. They're both divisible by 7. There's 3. Oops, this marker is kind of 3 over 5, right? The ratio here is 3 to 5. So that's correct. Okay. Okay, good job. You guys are going at a good pace. Am I going too fast on these things, or is everyone following? This is okay. So I just want to make sure. We're going to walk through these together. On the earlier ones, I was like, okay, everyone do these. We're going to do these all together because it's a little bit harder. How many of you guys, how many of you guys are in pre-algebra right now? You guys are in algebra 1?
We're in statistics.
Statistics? Okay. But not have you guys dealt with variables already?
Yeah.
A little bit of variables? Okay, good. So, sorry. Let's go through here for a second. Sasha, can you read number 1 for us? This will be interesting. Go ahead. Let's give her attention to Sasha.
If m equals 2 and 2m minus 3n is 30, 2m times 2m minus 3n is 34, what is the value of n?
Okay, so if we have a situation like this, the part that says if is our given information. If is something they're supplying to us. In this case, they're telling us m equals 2. What do we do with the m? Alongo?
We should rewrite the statement, but put 2 instead of m.
Right. So let's write that in there. 2. Everyone should write this in their paper. Okay. How would we clean this up?
Well,
Or
first we can multiply the 2 times 2,
Okay.
4, and then 4.
That's correct so far. What would be the next step here? Haruta?
Do the equating in parentheses.
What would you do with inside the parentheses? You got a 4 and you have a 3n. So you can't really subtract these two.
Can do 16 is 12n.
Okay, what Haruto suggested here, does everyone know about distribution? Have you guys ever heard of distribution?
Distributive property?
Yeah, distributive property, it's the same thing. So you're multiplying the 4 times 4, the 4 times the negative 3. So let me just draw arrows to make it more obvious. So as a result, because we couldn't do anything inside of this parentheses, there's nothing we could do, we multiplied this out. So you have that. Does everyone see that? So now we're isolating the variable n. What's the next step we should do? Elizabeth?
Minus 16 on both.
Yeah, subtract the 16 on both sides. Okay, so now you have negative 12n equals 18. Okay. What's our next step here? Go ahead.
Well, kind of, then you do, so you find out what, you most say is trying to find out what n is, so you can do, so you want to find out what to multiply negative 12 by to get 18.
Well, you could do that, or you could do something else. Divide it on both sides. You're just trying to isolate it. So you're trying to move all the numbers to the right side. That's what you're doing. So let's divide both sides by negative 12.
Why do you subtract?
We're dividing because originally this is negative 12 times n. So since it's negative 12 times n, you're doing the opposite, which is divide. So that's why we're dividing. Okay. So now I'm just going to write what we have left here. And you have 18 divided by negative 12. What's our last step? Reduce it. Okay, so you want to reduce it, what do you get?
2/3.
Is it 2/3? Elizabeth, say that louder. Negative.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's going to be negative 3 over 2. Because 18 divided by 6, negative 12 divided by 6, you get negative 3 over 2. Our answer is, our answer there should be B, which is negative 3 over 2. So the takeaway from this, because it looks like substitution is relatively new and distribution is relatively new. And there are 3 things I want you to take away from this problem. Substitution, distribution, and then isolating the variable, okay? These are kind of new for us here, right? Or maybe it's something you might have seen, right? Okay. What we're going to do on this next page, we're going to do this together. These are kind of strange problems in which a test maker gives us formulas that they introduce for the first time. They're really seeing how well we follow directions. So what they're going to do here is introduce something that looks weird, maybe use a symbol, maybe use a word, and they're basically trying to tell us, follow the directions to find the answer. Let's look at number 2 here. Connor, can you read this one for us from the top?
In order to quart a number, you must perform the following 2 steps. Step 1, multiply the number by 5. Step 2, add 11 to the result. Step 3, add the result of step 2 to the original number. When you quark 3, you get A, 14, B, 18, C, 26, or D, 29.
Okay, rather than just going straight to the answers, we're going to have to follow step 1, 2, and 3. So we're going to try to quark 3. Quark is a term from physics, has nothing to do with this, and there's no such thing in math as quarking a number. This is just to confuse you for a second, but see how, really what they're doing is seeing how well you follow a new formula. So what do we do to 3 first? So yeah, we want to multiply this one by 5. So we have 15 here. What's the second step?
I have 11.
Ethan, what do we add it to?
The result.
So you're going to add 15 plus 11. And you got what number?
26.
26. Thank you. 26. Now what's the third step here?
Add the
Sasha, what do you want?
Add it to the original number.
Which
Add the
is?
result, add 26 to 3 and 29.
Right. So 29 is our answer there. So I know in some of the stuff you do at school, you can go straight to the answers real quick and just go through process of elimination. But for a problem like this, you kind of have to follow the steps before you go to those answers. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to choose the answer correctly. Let's go further with this one. Alongo, can you read where it says questions 3 and 4 and read that question?
You should verb 3 and 4 are verbs that follow your definition. For all real numbers x and y, let x number y be defined by the equation x number y equals parentheses x plus 1 parentheses y minus 1.
Okay, good. All right. So you have x pound y. Some people call it pound because you got to press pound on a cell phone to send your message. Some people call it hashtag because you guys use Twitter. Like, dude, let's look for something on Twitter. Hashtag cool. I don't know what you're going to look up, right? So, I mean, you can call it whatever you want to call it. Pound, hashtag, number sign. It's all good. What they're telling us is basically, sorry, one of the numbers is going to represent x. And when you have that number for x, you're going to put it in here. One of the numbers is going to represent y, and when you have that one, you put it in here. The question that Alongo read to us says 0 pound parentheses 3 pound 6. So where should we begin with this one? Yes, Maria said parentheses. If we do that, what does the 3 represent and what does the 6 represent?
but
What do you guys think? 3? Anyone?
x plus y.
Well, one is x and one is y. Which is which?
X plus y.
Not x plus y.
3 is x.
3 is x. Say it again, Sam.
3 is x, 6 is y.
That's right. So let's use this formula here. So this is your x. This is your y. Okay. So this is going to be 3 plus 1. This is going to be 6 minus 1. Do you guys see that now? This is the x. This is the y. Does everyone see that? So now I heard people saying it 4, and then the other number is 5. Because 6 minus 1. So now you multiply them, and you get the final number, which is 20. Are we done? We're not done. So if we're not done, what do we do with the 20? You keep it in the pocket? On the side? Okay. Okay, it's there. What do we do with the 20 now? We still have a 0 here. So now we actually, well, we wouldn't multiply by 0. We're going to do this. 0 pound 20 or 0 hashtag 20, right? People like to say hashtag, right? So you got 0 Hashtag 20. I was waiting for people to really say that. But you guys aren't like Twitter people, right? Not really into Twitter. What are you guys into? Instagram? Snapchat? That's it? No? Okay, good. Okay, let's go back to this then. 0 and pound 20. What happens with 0 and pound 20 now?
Phone numbers.
It's what? It's what?
Like a school phone number.
Well, one of them is going to represent X. The other one's going to represent Y. This is your X. Hashtag Y, right? So we're going to put it back in the formula again. Okay, so this is going to be so you have 0 plus 1 and 20 minus 1. Okay, so this is going to be 1 times 19. Our final answer is 19.
19.
I know on that, I think yours had a misprint. The rest of them have 19 on it, right?
I don't have 19.
I
Oh,
don't
wait.
know.
Some of them do. Some of them have a misprint that says 18. It should be 19. The answer is 19. I know there's a misprint. But it should be 19. That's the right answer. The takeaway from this is that when you're doing a problem like this, right, you end up having to apply this new formula more than once. So oftentimes with this kind of a question, you're going to encounter things that are a little bit tricky, but you may have to use it more than once. And you're going to see that on number 4. Let's have Elizabeth read number 4 for us.
If 5 pounds 8 pounds 3, what is the value?
So this is a little bit tricky, right? What do you think we can do first here? Elizabeth?
Find out the X and Y.
Okay, which one's X?
5 is X.
Okay. All right. So let's plug it back into that formula that we just used. Okay. What about the right side of the equation? What should we do here? Same thing. This is going to be X. So let's put them in the formula.
8 plus 1. And 3 minus 1.
Okay, you guys should be writing this down. I wouldn't try to do this in your head. It's going to be really complicated. You'll see what I mean by this. Can everyone see that? I know it's kind of faint with the color there. Let's see if I remember. Oh, those are my markers. Okay, so what do we do now? What can we do? Let's, yeah, we got to clean it up a little bit first. 5 plus 1 is obviously, okay, so let's put this in. And this is 3 minus 2, which is obviously, 3 minus 1 is obviously 2, right? So this is 2, a plus 1. What's our next step before we isolate?
You do the 6.
Isolate, distribution. Remember, distributive property. What do we? Can we distribute anything here on both of these? Yes.
Oh, A and B.
The 6 can go into A and 1. So this is, I'm going to draw the arrows here. So 6 times A, 6 times negative 1. 2 times A, 2 times 1. So you got 6A minus 6, 2A plus 2. Now we want to work on isolating the variable. What's the first step we can do here to isolate this variable? You want to add 6 on both sides? Okay, let's do that. So now you have 6A plus 2A plus 8. What do we want to do next? Our goal is to put A by itself and all the numbers on the other side. So what's the next move we make here? Subtract? Okay, so we want to subtract 2A on both sides. So now you're left with 4A equals 8. 4A equals 8. So now what do we do to isolate this? Haruta?
We have 8 by 4 divided by it.
Divide by,
8 by 4.
oh, I see. Divide 8, both sides actually.
Yeah.
So our answer is A equals 2. Okay. How much of this was beyond the algebra you guys have learned so far in school? Is that beyond what you guys have learned?
It's like, not the pound.
Well, of course, that's a little bit new, but the distribution, the isolating a variable, I mean, the substitution, the distribution, and isolating variables. You guys have learned that, right? Okay, that's important. And this is really an active type of learning experience. Whether it's something you've learned already or things that you may have learned and forgotten, it's to refresh your memory on that. Okay, you guys are doing excellent. Let's move forward here. And let's talk about expressions and equations here. And this is very similar to what you guys are going to have where you're dealing with variables. Let's go with Ethan. You want to read number 5 for us?
Oh, see, n plus 2 n plus n equals
Yes.
A 4n, B n to the power of 2, C 4n to the power of 2, and D n to the power of 4.
Right. So if you're adding this up, what is it going to equal here? Let's hear from Maria. It's equal to 4n. That's correct. Although we don't see the numbers there, there's a 1 times n here, and there's a 1 times n here. Okay, so I'm gonna write these in here. When you have the same variable, in this case n, right? You add the coefficients. Okay, coefficients are these numbers. Those are the coefficients. Okay, have you guys heard the word coefficients before? That's what it means. It's the number multiplied in front of the variable. Let me throw something at you, because I thought this was pretty easy. Let me throw something at you here. So, if this was a multiplication problem, what would the answer be?
3n, but not 2n.
Yeah.
Just 2n.
No. 2n was power of 2.
Hmm.
I think just 2.
So this looks
Power of 3.
correct. So what Elizabeth told us is right. It's 2, and there it is 2 dark, 2n cubed. Multiplication is different. We still have the same coefficients, 1 and 1. Okay, this is a 1. This is a 1, right? 1 times 2 times 1 is just 2. So the coefficients are multiplied, but when you have the same base variable, which is just n here, they all have the power of 1. Okay, this is first power. So those are all first power. You need to add the exponents, because this is n times n times n. This is n cubed. All right? So that's not even written there. If you didn't have it, I would write this in here, because I want you not to get confused between the rules of adding variables versus multiplying variables. They're different from each other, right? So that's kind of why I'm showing you both of these things, because otherwise you're like, yeah, that's really easy. I know that stuff. But I want you not to get confused when doing that, okay? Any questions on this one? Does anyone need explanation? Okay, I think this is pretty straightforward. I want everyone to do 6, 7, and 8, and we'll go over those together. Okay, you guys ready?
Yeah.
Let's talk about these. Let's go with, let's hear from Maria, number 6.
So that's the
That's correct. On this one, all you had to do was clear the denominators to isolate the n. So you're multiplying 100 on both sides. Does anybody need me to do this, or everyone got this?
Sure.
Everyone's got this? Okay. 7, let's go with, Aruto, what'd you get on that one?
2.
2 is correct, because 2 times 4 times 2 definitely equals 16. Pretty straightforward. Elongo, number 8, what'd you get on that one?
I wasn't sure, but I just thought it, and I think it's B.
Let's have someone who can explain what we should do first. Maria, you want to explain it?
you would multiply 2 times 4 again.
Hold on.
Wait, are we doing
We're looking at number 8.
Oh,
Are you on 8 or are you on 7?
yeah, I was gonna say. Okay, well then, 1/3 of x equals 8, meaning x would be 24, because 8 times 3 equals 24.
Right. So she cleared the denominators here by multiplying 3 on both sides. That's how you isolate the x. Okay. So this x equals 24. Okay.
So 1/4 of x would be 6.
So she inserted the 24 for x, and that's 6. So yes, Alongo got the right answer, but
I said 3 times 8 was 24, and I just did 4 times blank, 4 times something equals 24.
yeah, but 4, I see what you're doing, but it's 1/4 here on the page.
Oh, yeah.
So it wouldn't be 1/4 times 6, it's 1/4 times 24 equals 6.
Oh, yeah.
That's what we have here, 1/4 times 24 equals 6, right? So that's kind of why when you were like, oh, I think I got the answer, I wanted someone who could explain back what they did. But that's totally fine. All right, does everyone got those 3, right? Let's move forward. The next page is a very critical page. And before, we have like about 9 or 10 minutes left. If we get cut short, I just want to tell you, the homework is from pages 28 to 60. And some of you guys are like, what? That's like 32 pages. But I'm going to tell you, the reason why it's so long and the pages are sideways is because most of these pages have just one question on them. So it's not like 10 questions per page. So it's only about 38 questions in 30 pages. Yeah, it's not like, oh my gosh, you're giving us 30 pages of homework. Oh my good. Okay, yes.
I can't find 28. I can find.
28 is
It's not
blank.
numbered.
It's not
Yeah,
numbered, but it starts on 29. I should say 29, actually. Let's say 29. That's better.
Yeah, we're gonna go over it.
Next week. But let's continue here. I just wanted to tell you that because we're up against time, and I want to make sure we get through as much as we can right here. Okay. I want to give you 3 steps for translating word problems. Let's go back to 22 for a sec. There's 38 questions on that one, but let's go back to 22. I just wanted to highlight the homework so you guys know what you're going to face for the next week. Step 1 is this, okay? Step 1 is assign variables to each value, okay, or to each number. That's better. Step 2, identify how the variables form an equation, okay? So what that means is sometimes it'll say 1/2 of x equals the total, right? So you're identifying what x is first of all, and then you're saying, oh, 1/2 of that x equals the total. So you're doing that. So you're forming an equation. The last one is solve the equation. So a lot of the work you guys are doing at school is translating word problems into equations and then solving for it. This box right here is a super useful tool for us here because it tells us what some of these words mean. Some of the words are really easy, like sum, plus, more than, we know that's addition, minus, less than, difference. Those are subtraction. I'm going to say this. Be careful with the word less. The word less and the phrase less than mean two different things. Okay, let me erase this. Everyone got this, right? Okay. If I said 8 less 2, I'm going to write this here. So the first one is 8 less 2, and the second one says 8 less than 2. Do these mean the same thing?
No.
Okay, Elizabeth, what's the difference?
8 less 2,
Okay.
and then 8 less than 2 is negative 6.
Yeah, this means 2 minus 8 equals negative 6. Correct. So good job in distinguishing that. Just one word, and it flips it around. You guys see that? So that's very, very interesting there. We need to make sure that we're not confused by those things, especially with word problems here. Words like is, was, equal, those are just the equal signs, okay? Times, product, multiplied by, of, twice. What I want you to notice, those are pretty obvious, is the word of. The word of shows up in the multiplication line, but it also shows up in the division line. If you look at this, it says divided by, over, quotient, per, out of. So there are some cases where of means multiplication. There are some cases where where of is related to out of, which means division. 4 out of 5, right? If I said 50% of students chew gum, how would you translate that? It's going to be this: 1/2 students. Right? 1/2 times students, half of students chew gum. Right? So of could mean multiply, it can mean divide. Divided, and then when they give you words like what or how much, it means X. You just assign a variable to that. Let's do number 1 here. Let's have Sasha read this because you look like you're painting your nails.
Where has $D in her wallet? You took out $3 of the bill. Then she spent X dollars at the store. How many dollars did Moira have?
Okay, so how would you translate that one? Yes, Sasha.
I would, so she took out, which is minus or negative, and she spent, which is also minus. Oh, yeah. She had D, which is like a number, and then minus B minus S.
Does everyone agree with that?
Yeah.
Yes? No? Okay, Elizabeth.
Which one did she use? Which one?
She said D minus B minus S. Elizabeth, go ahead.
I would do D because taking out dollars out of bank means increasing what she has now.
Yes, putting it in her own pocket or in her purse, right? So D plus B, this comes from the bank, and then what happens?
And then she spends it, which means she.
Yeah, so she subtracts the amount that she spends. So this was D, D plus B minus S. Okay, we are going to wrap it up there because we're right at time. We will continue with math next time, but your homework is pages 29 to 60. I will see you guys next Wednesday. Everything worked? Everything was good for you guys? Everything positive? All right, awesome. Bring your workbooks and I will see you guys next Wednesday. Thank you guys. You guys are free to go. All right.
I was like, no, I wanted to